Thank you. Thank you for joining me for Ain't Gonna Be No Stupid. I'm still here with Christine Barboza from Paramount High School. And I'm here because it turned into a part 2. And we're going to keep going with our Ain't No Stupid Students, Only Stupid Teachers part 2. So I want to start with a quote, if I can, because we talked about this a little bit in episode 1. But let's be clear. This comes from Dante Stewart yesterday on social media. Let's be clear. There's a vast difference between diversity and inclusion and liberation and justice. One enjoys the feeling of my presence, diversity and inclusion. The other embraces the fullness of my humanity, liberation and justice. And we talked about being disruptors. We talked about being more than allies. We talked about being anti-racist in part 1. I just thought it'd be good to start with this for this part 2. So what do you want to say to that?
You know, I remember a while ago, like 30 years ago, Amy, when there was some racial tension at Paramount.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we had to teach something called A World of Difference.
Oh my
gosh. A world of difference. It
was a big white binder. A white binder.
Yes.
Yes.
They forced us
to
teach the kids that people are different. Oh, okay. Like they didn't know that.
That was back in the tolerate. Remember the teaching tolerance?
That's what I was going to say.
The T word? No, not tolerate.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to say, because that Mr. Dante's quote about one enjoys and one celebrates. Yeah, but if you go be like before the enjoys, it's some people just tolerate.
Yeah.
And if you tolerate me, that doesn't mean you accept me. It doesn't mean you enjoy me. It certainly doesn't mean you celebrate me. And I think that there's a lot of tolerance happening.
Yep.
In our classrooms instead of making a connection.
Amen.
And not like you want to be accepted, like you, the teacher, it's not for you to be accepted. It's for that kid to feel comfortable and accepted by you and by the peers. And then that's that environment that you create in your classroom, like a community. Right. And so, diversity, tolerate diversity or whatever it's called. I'm like,
I know.
No, I'm against that. I just say, no.
Me too. I agree with that completely. How about we move into the colonization? This is just a coined phrase, I think, from Sheldon Aiken again. The colonization approach, where you're lecturing students in the hallway about how much you disrespected me in my classroom, when really, if you take that kid in the hallway and just ask them what they're going through, what's going on, what's happening, that will diffuse everything, and it will not be this power struggle, right?
I think, I agree with you, but I think you and I would create some kind of relationship with that kid first. If you don't have a relationship with somebody, you're going to bring me in the hall and talk to me, I'll be like, F you, like, why are you talking to me? You don't even care about me.
Yeah.
But if the kid knows you care and it's like, hey, Joe, like, you never act like this. All of a sudden you're kind of on edge, and, maybe you could just take a time out. It's not a problem. You want to just sit upstairs. It's nothing against you. You just need a timeout.
Right.
And then they're like, and you just give them space, right? Yeah. We all need our space sometimes. You never know what happened on the way to class or whatever, even with us, but we gotta fake it.
No, we can, if you're co-teaching, you can kind of peace out for a minute, but I never do that. I always forget to do that. Right. I'm going to be right back, like leave the room, leave the situation, because it can still go off the rails, even though they think that you love them. Even though they think that you do, they can still go off the rails, which is another whole
you're right.
can of worms, right? How about the performative educator, the one who makes everything look nice, gets an excellent rating, which I know you probably do too, and yet behind the scenes they aren't doing things that need to be done, like on spreadsheets or IEP meetings need your notes or whatever. They don't do the behind the scenes stuff. But on paper, they're excellent because they do everything for that dog and pony show that you give your evaluator, and they do all the writing and everything. And I'm like, personally, I just can't hang in that. I can't be a good teacher in my classroom and do the things that you expect me to do because of the ADHD. I wish they would differentiate for teacher evaluation. I really wish they would. But at this point, I've just resigned myself to being a BE teacher. It's fine.
No, Amy, that's not true. You're doing the best job you can in the classroom. I know you.
Yeah.
And they're coming in and like, okay, you don't fit, you're not meeting these standards how we want you to do it. Well, that's how you want me to do it. I know my kids, you don't even know them. You don't even know their name. I see them every day.
Yeah.
Look at how they've improved. Look at their achievement. That's, Yeah.
And that's the same, but that's the way kids feel in our room when we don't give them alternative methods to show that they've learned something. Our school's doing a great job with that, by the way.
Oh, good.
With just, alternative assessments and reassessments and equity, grading for equity and stuff like that. So that's been good.
Yeah.
How about this? That kind of segues into embrace the change in the school. And we always have a new initiative, right? We always have the new buzzword, like you said, learning maps, right? In the last episode. It's always, you got to do this. It doesn't have to be that one thing is the answer, but you need to embrace change and you need to just let it take its time, like a cooking. It needs to simmer. You can't just throw it out just because maybe it doesn't taste right the first time you cook it or whatever, right? So how's change been going? You've been having the same influx of change in Paramount, I'm sure.
Oh, California, we have to be on the cutting edge and try all these dumb things. But I think there's a couple kinds of changes, or maybe more than two, but two significant ones that come to mind are like policy changes, like the language arts standards or something like that.
Yeah.
And we can't really control those. And then there are the new admin is here. Their philosophy, it's like, okay, you're new, I've been here. Maybe you should just sit a while and listen. You know what I mean? Like,
that would be the best
thing. Just because you're in charge, it doesn't mean you know more than I do. Right. In fact, you're not even an English teacher that taught 32 years. So there are some things that bother me. There's change that I got to deal with.
Yeah.
And then there's change that I choose not to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, and you're good about that. Yeah. You're good about boundaries.
Well, I try to have a lot of conversations so that people know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Not just,
but, one big change that's happening in our school is block scheduling. We've never done it before. And we're starting. Yeah, it's a 89-minute period and per class. And ask me how much training we've had.
0. You're going to love it though. You are, because you do like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes. You change it up. You don't do 89 minutes of one thing. So you're fine. Right. You're going to love it because it's every other day, less kids throughout the day, less passing period conflicts. I don't know why we don't move to that, man. I love that. We did that during our hybrid learning and or the COVID was also a bit blocked.
Yeah, we did that in COVID.
Oh, I love.
So are you still doing that, Amy?
No, we never officially did block ever. No. But I know it's better. I just know it is. For my brain, it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I think our campus is like 50-50. 50% don't want it. And so that change thing, because they don't want to change.
Yeah, but they're going to love it when they do it. They are going to love it.
I hope so.
To you now, you will love it if you know how to if you know how not to do one thing for 89 minutes, if you know how to change it up in your room. That's simple. If you do a seminar for anyone, you don't just talk for 89 minutes. Come on now, people, especially people. That's another stupid thing. I want to talk to people who think they know what teaching is. I know people I've talked to. Oh, I like teaching. I was a guest speaker once in a classroom and that was really nice. I'm like, you have no idea what teaching is. If you were a guest speaker, that is not teaching. That is not teaching.
Right.
Anyway, we can't explain it. But I remember back in the days when we did restructuring in the 90s, I remember being in the boardroom and I remember writing on a whiteboard and I remember drawing a heart on the whiteboard. And I've read about this since then, but I remember we were talking about, the classroom is the heart of the school. Why are you breaking it? Why are you breaking its heart all the time? Why are you breaking teachers' hearts all the time? Because it's the heart of the classroom. It's barely beating, but we need to make sure we keep that most thriving. You're doing Pilates, you're getting stronger. We need to do the same thing, right? We need to do the same thing. So I guess, I don't know if you want to speak to that the heart of the classroom is this.
It is. I mean, the best part of a school or a district is in the classroom.
I agree.
So if you've ever spent time out of the classroom, I was an interim union president for 3 months. And so I was out of the classroom. I had never been out of the classroom for that long ever. So I missed like the whole first semester. And I felt so out of touch so quickly. And actually, I really hated that job because everybody's complaining all the time, which I don't really like. But I was like, wow, I need to be back in the classroom. And then sometimes when you don't have something, that's when you're like, whoa, I really want that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not ready to retire yet, but maybe next year is my last year. I don't know.
Wow.
But, you know what I mean? You never know. So
I know.
But as long as I'm not bitter and I enjoy the kids and I love what I teach, I feel like I could do it for a while.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like summers are kind of lonely without being at school. I know it sounds weird to say that for me, but this year more so. And I signed on the dotted line to retire in 4 years. And yes, I have an administrative degree as well. But I think the reason I never did do that was because of the missing of the dynamics of that classroom, the heart of the school. So yeah. So,
that's a really good metaphor, the heart, you know.
Yeah. And I think too, that kind of goes into another point I was going to make too, is no sage on the stage. We need to be, it needs to be a student-centered approach. And in part one, you did mention how you have kids actively engaged and you're just walking around just like a coach, right? And that's old transition of how they taught us to be as teachers, but some people still haven't caught up with that. And they're trying to impart knowledge onto the kids where, I mean, they don't even find school relevant now because of all the side hustles they can be doing. Everything. They don't even see that they need to read and write with their family businesses, and they don't need any of this. So, I mean, that is, the chasm is even greater now. So I think the more that I can get them involved with each other, talking to each other, at least the human factor, I think that's really key, right? Make them feel like, oh, I did learn something. Yeah.
It's not just about making money.
No,
I mean, you know, oh, we want to get you a good job so you can make money and move out of the hood. Like, really? That's what? No, it's about like being a contributing member of society. I mean, look at the whole political thing that's going on now. We want them to understand what's happening and make informed decisions. Things like that. It's more than just making money.
Man,
I'm constantly telling them that.
I agree. And the kid always comes in and shows me his new pair of $800 shoes. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I want to know, what did you read last night?
Right.
All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about, since we have time, is how do we address implicit bias and social cognition, according to Sheldon Aiken's book, Leading Equity. And I just want to throw out these 4 points. How do we challenge stereotypes? Because we need to stop believing in the stereotypes, right? We need to stop subscribing to common thought about a group of people. Like, for example, you can put a group of, like, say, all Black people in a picture, and you can put a picture of a bunch of people of different races on another picture, and you're going to ask the question, what picture is more diverse? Not necessarily is the one with the mixed race, because diversity of thought exists in the room, right? Okay.
Right.
All right. How about this? Develop empathy. We talked about that already earlier. You can give some practical, like, if you don't have empathy, like, you know how there's teachers that just don't seem to have empathy? How do you teach empathy to someone who doesn't have empathy or ever exhibit it, or actually come off as like, I don't care? I think the people that say I don't care are the ones deep down that do care. They have a really soft heart, but they're afraid to show it. I don't know.
Yeah, I always tell teachers that I teach, like, I'm a personality forward teacher. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, I like that.
So I really, so like, if I wrote a lesson plan and Mr. Jones say, hey, can I borrow the lesson plan? Sure. It doesn't, I mean, are you sure you want to borrow it? Because, you know, the way I'll introduce this quick video and the way I move them around to groups or whatever is going to be purposeful. And it's more like, maybe I'll play music or something, right? And it's going to be more like my speed, my personality, who I am. It's a reflection of who I am, but I have to be vulnerable to show them who I am, because I'm expecting vulnerability back, especially in my speech and debate classes.
Yeah.
And so if Mr. Jones wants, it's so funny because remember Mr. Jones?
Don't.
Remember him?
No.
So, but if he did the lesson plan, I have no idea. He'd probably like, that sucked. And then, you know, whatever.
Right,
like,
right. If someone else uses your plan and they try to implement it, it doesn't work. You can't work on people's plans. I agree.
And that's why this teachers pay teachers, and, you know, people getting lesson plans off the internet. Oh, we'll just do that. I'm like, you know, and that's why in PLC, sometimes it's hard to collaborate with people who are philosophically so different. Exactly. And it doesn't mean they don't have empathy. Like, I know you want to stay on this empathy thing.
No, it's fine.
But I think it's that they don't allow themselves to be vulnerable and show the empathy. What I think I'm, you know.
That's a good point. No, I don't know.
Yeah. Either. I don't concern myself with other teachers that much.
No, same.
I don't really have time because
well, our title sort of lends itself to that. Ain't no stupid students, only stupid teachers. So we're talking about those teachers. But yeah,
no, we are.
I'm guilty, but we're guilty of the stupidity as well. I want to make sure I keep saying that because.
No, of course. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm sure I've been a stupid teacher, but I do remember, sometimes we call each other in classrooms like, hey, are you teaching right now?
You always remind me of that.
I'm teaching
We had
nothing.
phones, we had landlines, and we would just call each other like, hey, are you teaching right now? Like, yeah, probably you were, right?
Are you using the TV cart?
You have a TV cart, a VCR. Oh my gosh. You knew it was a good day when you rolled that thing in there. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was. You won the lotto.
Yes. All right. Last 2 points, and then we'll let you go. Embrace differences. It says here, again, Nicole Mirra in Educating for Empathy mentions this. Being kind campaigns. That's just not enough. It's just not enough. We need to go deeper when it comes to embracing our differences. And I do have an activity I can share it with you that I'm just doing on the first week of school, where you actually have to talk to kids and find common differences as opposed to find commonalities, and then decide which one you're going to talk about. And I got to give Sheldon Aiken credit for that. But which one are you going to talk about? Which one do you feel safe about? And then what did you all learn in the midst of talking about your differences, which I think is really going to be cool. I hope they go deep. We'll see how it goes with
and then you're going to share yours as well.
Yes.
And that's what teachers don't do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Is it a safety thing? I don't understand why.
Yeah, that was
another
point. Like if you assign something, I know teachers will get something off the internet. Oh, I'm going to try this with the kids. Have you also tried to create from that directions yourself? Have you done the work that you are assigning? Because if you haven't tried it yourself, that is one stupid thing I think teachers do. You need to do the work yourself before you assign it, before you try it. So that's one thing I've learned.
I was going to just say what you were alluding to is like intersectionality, right? So maybe I'm foster youth, maybe I'm Black, and maybe I'm gay.
Yep.
So you have all of these intersecting.
Yep.
So this is a difference or a challenge or an obstacle. You might see it as less than, I see it as my superpower.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, it's all
That's
that perception. Point. And then I'm also involved with the California Black School Educators Association.
Nice.
And it's amazing. I don't know if they have anything like that in Chicago. So it's called CABSE, CABSE. And we did some unconscious bias training, and I had done it before, but I did like the full thing. And you can also look it up on YouTube with Dr. Marks. I think he's at Howard University.
Love it.
And he is amazing. Like you just take you take some kind of like, just to see where you're at. Like, oh, what do you think about this or this and this? And then it pops out with like a score. You're like, whoa, I didn't know I was okay.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of in your face. And I think we should do that. Another thing that I want to talk to you about is, if the kids don't look like us and don't have our same background, then learn about it. You don't have to ask them. So we were teaching a section called Language, Gender, and Culture in our ERWC, Expository Reading and Writing course put on by the CSU, Cal State Universities here in California. And I love the language, culture, gender unit. I think I'm the only one who kind of does it. And then I was talking to everybody else to doing it. And one of the articles we were reading was code switching. And somebody had said, oh yeah, well, I just taught it like, well, you speak Spanish and then now you speak English. No. I'm like, no, that's not code switching. But all this person had to do is kind of like look it up. Like, what is code switching?
Right.
Because our kids have to do it all the time and we don't.
Can you explain it just for those that are listening so that aren't going to Google it?
Oh, okay. So just how you would talk within your own group. Let's say if you're Black, I guess, and you're like, hey, y'all, or, oh, I see you, or, oh, you put your foot in that,
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do those things mean? Oh, I recognize your ability. Oh, you did really well with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things that maybe somebody else wouldn't know. And then you're like, well, Chris, how do you know what they are? Or you're not Black. I go, I'm not Black, but I asked them what it means. Like, how hard is that?
Yes.
And then awesome. I was the Black student union advisor as well too. So
I love that because,
fortunate.
Well, some would argue that Ebonics, that's what they call it. Do they still call it that? Where it's a second language?
Yeah, sure it is.
I agree. And I think that it's like, wait a minute, code switching, all that, brilliant, creative, genius.
Exactly.
Love. If you love language, you got to learn all the nuances of your kids, right? how they speak.
And I tell the kids who have, they are learning another language. Then they put them in my speech class. I had a kid last year he was like, he'd been in the country for a year and he's in my speech class. And I'm like, we're going to work with it. Super bright kid.
Right.
And I'm like, I always tell them, like, you have an accent. That's great. That means you speak another language.
Yes.
Like, you're really smart.
Yes.
Like, that's not something.
It's not a weakness.
The only thing is if it gets in the way of your communicating in the other language, right? Then we got to clean that up. But if you speak English with an accent, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm always like I'm like, that's a superpower.
I agree completely with that.
So
love it. Which is last point, you're an advocate. Sure. It's not for the faint of heart. You are an advocate. You just described all the ways that you are. And that's another fourth point about addressing implicit biases, which is key for not being a stupid teacher. And it's not just for white teachers. We all have implicit biases. We just need to become aware of them and not believe the stereotype or the common thought. And I think that would be better for us to go back in the classroom with a better frame of mind and hopefully help create safe environments for our students to feel like they want to learn and embrace each other in there as well. So these are some of the books. How to Raise an Anti-Racist. I said Ibrahim. I have a lot of students that speak Arabic.
Yeah, Ibrahim Kendi. So this is his new one. He's on the book tour of right now. And if you're going to get any book, get a Dr. Kendi book, or if you don't want to read it, listen to his podcast called Be Anti-Racist.
Yes.
Be Anti-Racist. That's his. I love that podcast so much.
Yes.
And another book. Oh God, this book it's like wrenches my heart. It's hard to get through. But this book, Post-Traumative Slave Syndrome by Dr. DeGruy.
The subtitle is American Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. To really understand, our African Americans and, their ancestors, what they went through. And you're just like, oh my gosh. And then the stereotypes that still remain because of this time in our history, like they're still here. It's just like ridiculous. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So those are some two pretty good books I would recommend.
Thank
people who are into it, but I do have like a lot of books.
Wow.
That Shervana sent me.
Send me a picture of the bindings and then I'll put it in the notes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris Barboza. I appreciate you. Shout out to everyone at Paramount High School and every student that we've ever had and crossed paths with, and every teacher and every administrator. We appreciate you guys. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Amy.
This was fun. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and I appreciate you giving space to a teacher to share my voice. So I appreciate
your voice. Otherwise, I wouldn't give you space.
I know. Stupid.
All right.
So, okay.